Hey you, I'm Kelly, former teacher and part-time reseller. Over the past 7 years, I've learned so much good stuff, and I want you to meet me right here each week so I can pass that on to you. This side gig has been such a blessing in my life, and I think it could be for you too. So let's get flipping. In this video, I'm going to be going over my estate sale haul from my very first video. In that video, I just sort of gave you the feeling of how relaxing an estate sale can be. But the truth is, I did a lot of hardcore sourcing. I actually walked away from that sale spending $150 on something like 30 pieces. I know my cost of goods turned out to be about $550 for each piece. Mostly clothes, some hard goods. Today I want to go over some of the clothing choices I made because they're not your typical choices. Something I've really gotten into is style-based sourcing. I think this is such a great way to buy clothing, especially because it means you can shop anywhere and still leave with things you can flip for a very decent profit. Okay, we're going to start with this Maje or Mahe. Not sure how you say it, and guess what? It doesn't matter. All that matters is I know what it is, how to describe it, and how to market it. Now this is what I would call a classic minimalist, sort of old money piece. So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you some keywords that I've learned to help market my items to people. By the way, I keep touching my microphone, I'm sorry. Now with this Mahe blazer, again, I paid $5.50 at the estate sale. These retail for crazy amounts of money, couple $100, $300 something I believe. So I need to market it carefully. And I start by looking at the colors, the silhouette, the textures, and I'm thinking about who's buying this. It's not going to be a teenage girl, I'll tell you that. I'm marketing this piece to either a career woman or possibly an older woman who does, let's say, charity. Yes, I make stories up in my head about my buyer, but that actually really helps me describe it in a way that gets it found on the internet. Now I've titled this starting with its brand name, followed by the item name they've given it. Gab, don't ask me, jacket blazer. Some people might also put coat. Those are choices you have to make with the amount of characters you have in your title. I tend to de-emphasize the size in a listing, meaning I don't put S-I-Z-E size and then spell out large or small or medium or what have you. I just typically will put 1 to 3 letters in my listing that indicate the size. That way I've got more characters for keywords. I've put the word linen, cotton, followed by a word all of us women love, pockets. The sleeve length can mean a really big deal, especially when it's an odd sleeve length like this, 3/4. Although let me tell you something, older women and plus size women tend to gravitate toward this 3/4 sleeve length than other lengths. Lined, hidden buttons. I want the buyer to know this is very sleek, very understated, very neutral, but very luxe. You'll see that I have added in just a few keywords. Minimalist, minimalism, because those are 2 different words. Old money, quiet luxury, and soft girl. Now, I would rethink that soft girl label because, again, I am not marketing this to young girls, so I don't know why I put that in there. I'm just going to be honest with you. Now, I don't always put the retail price of an item, but when it's a luxe item, I tend to do that. I'm not sure that it helps, but I do want people to know this originally retailed for $530 according to my research. I'm asking $68. I'd love to get $50 or more on this jacket, and I'm holding out for it because it's a special item. Next up is one of my very favorite purchases from this estate sale. It is the most darling, sweetest hand knit little cardigan sweater. You'll see that I started the title of this listing with the word vintage. I will do that all the time. Vintage is my very favorite thing to sell. Whether it's clothing or hard goods, vintage is where my heart is at. After all, I'm vintage. So I've titled this Vintage 70s. Now the reason I put 70s immediately following vintage is anything 20 years or older. So that leaves us wide open. And let's face it, depending on the decade, a cardigan sweater is going to look pretty different. So I was sure to let the buyer know this is from the 70s. It was hand knit. It's a cardigan sweater. It could be a popover, a pullover, a crew neck. There are so many ways to describe sweaters, but cardigan, if it's got any kind of opening in the front, in my opinion, is an essential word to include. Then I've got the size, XS in this case, the color, which I do not always put. One tip I have for you is to study what colors are popular at the time of listing. And if it's something that's trending, include it in your title. And there may be variations. In this case, I chose baby blue. I could have chosen sky blue, pastel blue, soft blue. Again, I have choices. But in this case, I thought baby blue was perfect. Heart buttons. The buttons on this sweater are heart-shaped, and I think that's a key feature. The other key feature on this sweater, puff sleeves. Now, we could go down a whole rabbit hole on sleeve styles because there are literally 100, and it can be sort of tricky to know exactly what to include in your title. But puff sleeves are definitely trending under the coquette style, and so I knew it was very good to include those. Yet I have it listed for $45 plus shipping. I've had several inquiries about it. A lot of folks want to know, unfortunately, the materials, but because this was handmade by a woman, the only tag inserted is her name. And so I can't be sure if it's wool, acrylic, or a blend. So I have to be honest with my buyer and tell them I do not know what blend it is or if it's a single material. So we'll see how that ends up selling. Again, it's a vintage item. It's a very small size. So I might be sitting on this for a small while. At this estate sale, there were a lot of Y2K style items, which is my favorite to sell right now, notwithstanding this piece from White House Black Market. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. I am not used to selling White House Black Market items, so I have some research to do. That did not stop me from listing it. And when you source something that you suspect is good, my friend, don't let it stop you either. Put it up and see what happens. There are a lot of resellers who experiment, big resellers, full-time resellers, who are experimenting with styles all the time to see if they can find a market. And this is the case for me. Again, I've started my title with vintage because I think that's important. Now, instead of putting which decade, you'll see that I'm going to throw in the word or the acronym Y2K. This is anything from the very late 90s to the early 2000s. I also abbreviated the maker of the garment, White House Black Market, because frankly, that takes up so much space. And when I keyed it into eBay, it came up anyways. So another tip I have for you is there are certain abbreviations you can make in your titles that will come up on search as the same. So for instance, vintage can be abbreviated VTG, and you will find that it will still come up if you were to type in the full word. So there's another tip for you. I just like the full word vintage whenever I can use it. You'll see that I decided to put the color next. Color and feel was so important to selling it that I wanted to add that right before the word silk and stretch. I also called this a military top, and you'll see kind of the structure of this. It's a very almost utility work shirt silhouette made ironically with a very soft feminine fabric, which I think is a great selling point for this top. It is a very small size, and it's got long sleeves with tabs in them so they can be rolled up. And I did make sure to include a picture showing that. Not everybody reads every word or looks at every picture of your listings, and that can be a bummer. But as long as you've covered yourself, if they make a purchase, you will find that you have a leg to stand on when you've covered all your bases, both in the description and in the pictures. I also included a really cool word, epaulets. These refer to the tabs on the shoulders. It can be a little applique, it can be a sort of loop like it is in this case, and it's just a really great word for someone who's looking for that military style. I priced this to move at $20 for a silk vintage top, but because the size is small, I will probably be sitting on it for a little while. This top is so much fun. I wished it was in a big girl size because then I could wear it. Patchwork, embroidered flannel shirt. I mean, come on, how many keywords can you get? So of course I started it with the word vintage. I want everyone to know this is not vintage style. This is not made to look vintage. This is actually vintage. So it's a vintage embroidered, very hot word in many different classic fashion styles. Flannel shirt, I just put an M for medium. Again, I want those character spaces for keywords, which you will see I shoved in there. Patchwork, mixed media. So this is referring to the fact that it's got some appliques and fabric, it's got buttons, it's got different materials going on. Floral, from the embroidered flowers, Western, and cowgirl. Now, I could have gone a few different ways with this. The word scarecrow comes to mind, but I didn't really think that was a selling point. I had a lot of fun photographing this shirt. I mean, it is literally just the cutest, softest little vintage flannel shirt a person could have. In the listing, you will see that I've added some more keywords: Southwestern, rodeo, festival, hippie, country, farmhouse, colorful, flowers, rancher. This is a great place to add in all the keywords you couldn't fit into the title. Now, I am going to warn you, as all good resellers will, do not cram words in here that have nothing to do with your item. That's called keyword spamming, and it's irritating for buyers, and it messes up the algorithms and the search engines, and it's just a bad idea. Don't do it. Now, this is a medium, not an extra small, and fall is upon us. So I expect this sale to pop off with at least $30. Yes, I always kind of pad my prices with room to negotiate on every platform except Etsy, where I don't negotiate at all. What I do on Etsy, and I'll get into this in another video, I do free shipping on Etsy with no negotiating of price. If I feel like I need to adjust prices on Etsy, I just go in and do it. Next up at this estate sale is this darling baby doll dress that is new with tags. It is a White House Black Market cocktail party dress. Yes, it's an extra small, but it's got a V-neck and it's got that high waist right under the bust with the lace and the bow and the spaghetti straps. And this, my friend, is a silhouette that's not going anywhere anytime. Now, as I'm looking at this, I will tell you that I noticed I'm missing a word that I really should have used, and that is the word coquette. Coquette is one of those words that embodies many other descriptive words like baby doll, milkmaid, bows, laces, all things ultra femme. And this dress embodies that so well that I really should go back in and add the word coquette or coquette girl. I've priced this one high, but it is new with tags. And because it's vintage, it's not going to be widely available. I do think this might sit for a bit until we have some sort of special occasion where a midi length dress like this would be appropriate. Sometime before winter, hopefully. But I think this would also make a great wedding guest dress or for a formal at school. It's so cute. Here is a gorgeous skirt. I love this thing. This is also a White House Black Market. Can you tell the estate sale gal had a penchant for shopping at White House Black Market? This is a silk skirt size medium, and it's a pull-on, but check out the sash that has the ruching and the built-in brooch. This is the most dreamy, silky, flowy little cocktail dress or skirt ever. I just love it so much. I do hope that this sells quickly for a minimum of $30, but I've listed it at $39. I also want to add a note about this listing. The tag lists this skirt as a size 0, but when I measure the waist, it's 30 inches. Now, if you're not sure what typical women's chart sizes look like, just Google it. I found one. I will include it here so you can kind of get an idea of what a general size would look like. And that is how I list things. If the tag disagrees with the actual measurement, I will always choose the reality over the pretend tag, I call it. It's important for women who are buying things online, and men, to get proper measurements so they know that when they receive it, it's going to fit their body. The smaller size tag might make them feel better, but they're not going to be able to wear it. So what is the point? This piece is already sold for $35, so I'll just start with that. It sold very quickly. Again, vintage. This was new with tags also. She'd bought it from a boutique. It had a boutique tag on it that I didn't recognize, but this is a bit of a bolo brand, so please do take note. Vintage vocal, vocal being the brand, grunge, fleur-de-lis, that is a buzzword for a lot of women. They love the symbol of that very French fleur-de-lis. Tunic, tank top. Now you'll see that I've chosen 3 words in a row that go together, that replace each other. And in this case, I did spell out the word small because when I went in to use my keywords, rhinestone and embellished took up so much, I really didn't have room for another good descriptive keyword. So I decided to use up all my characters as one should. And I went ahead and spelled out the word small. I've added some keywords in the listing: studded, steampunk, rebel, biker, biker core, rock, heavy metal. These things all tend to lend themselves to a culture of rock, of grunge. Depending on the garment, they could be gothic. And so I throw all of those in there because many pieces you'll find when you're sourcing span different fashion genres. And I think it's smart to use all of them somehow, either in your title or somewhere embedded in your listing. But again, I warn you, don't use words that don't describe your garment. You'll notice in the description, I also added the words asymmetrical handkerchief hem. Now, I would have put those in the title because those are great keywords, but they wouldn't fit. So I made a little sentence out of them and put them in the body of my description instead of throwing them at the end like I did the other keywords. And that's something I'll do. My buyers aren't always looking at those keywords at the bottom. That looks like exactly what it is to them, just a bunch of words, a bunch of nonsense, but it's not nonsense. They just don't need to read it. What they do need to read is the description because that's where all of the important information is listed. And that's why I added that detail into the body. This item is something you should keep your eyes peeled for. It's a little baby doll tank, and these are so popular with a lot of buyers. And it doesn't really matter the brand, although I will admit some brands do better. Any sort of lace trimmed, ribbon trimmed, tight fitting, maybe even cropped tank like this has a good chance of selling if you describe it correctly and price it right. This is an Ariane Victoria camisole. Now that's all company branding right there. Then I get into the size, and then I get into my descriptive words: baby doll, cami, tank top. The word cami is really important with this listing. You've got the word camisole, but the word cami top is very searchable. Jacquard helps give the buyer an understanding of the texture of this garment. Lace trim, and stretch. I think stretch is a really important keyword when you're describing articles of clothing, because let's face it, who has not bought a garment smaller than they should have because they knew it stretched? Anyway, I have priced this at $35 based on the fact that I've A, sold them at this price, B, I've seen other sellers sell them at this price. I may have to hang out a little bit because this is in what we might consider a summer colorway, but it's still a great layering piece. I absolutely adore this crochet top. Now, I've included a really special word I want to focus on in a minute, but notice again, I didn't put vintage because I can't be sure. Also, to help me describe this top, I did a Google Lens search, and that really helped me see what other brands are describing tops that they have in this same silhouette. And in doing so, I came up with boho and beachy. Angel is a great word to use if something is feminine and white. Of course, depending on the style, but we have a fashion keyword called angel core. And to me, this really lends itself to that and to fairy, just because of all the delicate lace and the, I'm just going to say, tiny feminine factor. The word I want to bring your focus to is pinafore. Now, pinafore will bring to mind an apron or a smock, something like that. And the two panels that come down the front and give that plunging V-neck reminded me so much of an apron or a pinafore that I wanted to put that word in there. And I've priced it at $30. Again, this is sort of a summer item, so I may be sitting on this if I don't bring the price down. Plus, it's an extra small. This is one of my top 3 favorite items of clothing that I sourced at this estate sale. This is a vintage, Lindsay is the brand, velvet burnout textured cocktail dress, size small with dramatic puff sleeves. This thing is gorgeous. I've priced it high at $85. I may have to come down, but since we're getting into the fall and winter season, and this is such a great dramatic silhouette, I really want to stay at that price and see how this garment does. I've got Victorian, Whimsy Goth, Wednesday Addams, Goth, Castlecore, Medieval, Regency, Black, Tie, and LBD. These are all words that could succinctly describe this dress depending on the event you're going to, depending on the look you're going for. Wednesday Addams is a great one for sort of black and dramatic dresses. If you saw the movie, and I didn't. Here's a fun tip. You don't have to know trends inside and out to use the keywords that describe them. All you have to do, my friends, from the comfort of your couch is do a Google search. It's so great. Anyway, I actually think one of my nieces would look really cute in this. And her name is Lindsay. She's a ballroom dancer. So I'm thinking of her for this, but I don't know if it's quite her style. And she's in Texas. And Texas heat and velvet probably aren't a great match. But oh my goodness, what an adorable piece. I love it. This fairy top might be my #1 favorite item that I sourced. This brand is called Heart Crowns, which I've never heard of before. So here we go with the title, Vintage Heart Crowns, and that little slogan I like to use so often, Y2K, sheer. Sheer is such an important word if you're describing any kind of garment. I have gotten into trouble with a buyer for not emphasizing, there's a fly in my office. I have gotten trouble for not emphasizing just how sheer an article was for a buyer. And ever since then, I have been sure to include the word sheer as close to the front of the listing as I can. This has a gorgeous layered ruffle neck. It's a size small. Sleeveless is also very important, I think. Fairy core, tie-dye. So if you've got a garment with buttons that are covered in the same fabric as the rest of the garment, I mean, That is an expensive thing to do, and it's worth mentioning in your list. In another video, I want to talk to you specifically about flaws on garments and how to best describe them so that you're being honest and accurate, but you're not painting a dismal picture and pushing your buyer away. But we'll get into that later. So I've added a line about the flaw, and as always, I include a specific photo, I'll show it to you here, showing the flaw in the very last frame. And I always put, please refer to the last 1 or 2 or 3 photos for reference. Now, the funny thing about this, and it corresponds with the next item I'm going to show you, is at the estate sale, there was a very blah beige tank underneath it because, again, it is sheer. When I took it off the hanger, I offered to hand the tank top back to the seller, and she said, oh, no, that tank goes with that. Well, clearly it doesn't. The tank was not the same brand. I said, okay, knowing when I got home that I was going to ditch it in the Goodwill bin to redonate. Good thing I didn't, because it's the first thing that actually sold from this trip. Okay, folks, here she is in all her glory. It is a good brand, but it's not a brand that has a crazy sell-through rate. If you don't know what a sell-through rate is, that means that the amount of items available online compared to the amount that have actually sold gives you a number that indicates how fast things are selling through. Okay, that's it. That's my little video. I hope you enjoyed it. I thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to improving my videos every week. Next week, I want to show you some of the wonderful sales I've had lately that prove one-off vintage items can bring in really good money. And the good news about that is you can find these items in any town, in any state in the country. Until I see you, have a beautiful, beautiful reselling time. And remember, Love Bug, God provides, and we flip it forward. See you next time.